Solar power is the conversion of sunlight into electricity, either directly using photovoltaics, or indirectly using concentrated solar power. Concentrated solar power systems use lenses or mirrors and tracking systems to focus a large area of sunlight into a small beam. Photovoltaics convert light into an electric current using the photovoltaic effect. The International Energy Agency projected in 2014 that under its high renewables scenario, by 2050, solar photovoltaics and concentrated solar power would contribute about 16 and 11%, respectively, of the worldwide electricity consumption, and solar would be the world's largest source of electricity. Most solar installations would be in China and India. Photovoltaics were initially solely used as a source of electricity for small and medium-sized applications, from the calculator powered by a single solar cell to remote homes powered by an off-grid rooftop PV system. As the cost of solar electricity has fallen, the number of grid-connected solar PV systems has grown into the millions, and utility-scale solar power stations with hundreds of megawatts are being built. Solar PV is rapidly becoming an inexpensive, low-carbon technology to harness renewable energy from the sun. Commercial concentrated solar power plants were first developed in the 1980s. The 392 MW Ivanpah installation is the largest concentrating solar power plant in the world, located in the Mojave Desert of California. Other large CSP plants include the SEGS in the Mojave Desert of California, the Sol Nova Solar Power Station and the Andasol Solar Power Station, both in Spain. The 579 MW Solar Star, in the United States, is the world's largest PV power station. Mainstream technologies. Many industrialized nations have installed significant solar power capacity into their grids to supplement or provide an alternative to conventional energy sources, while an increasing number of less developed nations have turned to solar to reduce dependence on expensive imported fuels. Long-distance transmission allows remote renewable energy resources to displace fossil fuel consumption. Solar power plants use one of two technologies. Photovoltaic systems use solar panels, either on rooftops or in ground-mounted solar farms, converting sunlight directly into electric power. Concentrated solar power plants use solar thermal energy to make steam, that is thereafter converted into electricity by a turbine. Photovoltaics. A solar cell, or photovoltaic cell, is a device that converts light into electric current using the photovoltaic effect. The first solar cell was constructed by Charles Fritz in the 1880s. The German industrialist Ernst Werner von Siemens was among those who recognized the importance of this discovery. In 1931, the German engineer Bruno Longhi developed a photocell using silver selenide in place of copper oxide. Although the prototype selenium cells converted less than 1% of incident light into electricity. Following the work of Russell Lowell in the 1940s, researchers Gerald Pearson, Calvin Fuller and Darrell Chapin created the silicon solar cell in 1954. These early solar cells cost $286 per watt and reached efficiencies of 4.5–6%. Conventional PV systems. The array of a photovoltaic power system, or PV system, produces direct current power which fluctuates with the sunlight's intensity. For practical use, this usually requires conversion to certain desired voltages or alternating current, through the use of inverters. Multiple solar cells are connected inside modules. Modules are wired together to form arrays, then tied to an inverter, which produces power at the desired voltage, and for AC, the desired frequency, phase. Many residential PV systems are connected to the grid wherever available, especially in developed countries with large markets. In these grid-connected PV systems, use of energy storage is optional. In certain applications such as satellites, lighthouses, or in developing countries, Batteries or additional power generators are often added as backups. Such standalone power systems permit operations at night and at other times of limited sunlight. Concentrated solar power, also called concentrated solar thermal, uses lenses or mirrors and tracking systems to focus a large area of sunlight into a small beam. Contrary to photovoltaics, which converts light directly into electricity, CSP uses the heat of the sun's radiation to generate electricity from conventional steam-driven turbines. A wide range of concentrating technologies exists. Among the best known are the parabolic trough, the compact linear Fresnel reflector, the Stirling dish and the solar power tower. Various techniques are used to track the sun and focus light. In all of these systems, a working fluid is heated by the concentrated sunlight, and is then used for power generation or energy storage. Thermal storage efficiently allows up to 24-hour electricity generation. A parabolic trough consists of a linear parabolic reflector that concentrates light onto a receiver positioned along the reflector's focal line. The receiver is a tube positioned right above the middle of the parabolic mirror and is filled with a working fluid. The reflector is made to follow the sun during daylight hours by tracking along a single axis. Parabolic trough systems provide the best land use factor of any solar technology. The SCGS plants in California and Acciona's Nevada Solar One near Boulder City, Nevada are representatives of this technology. Compact linear Fresnel reflectors are CSP plants which use many thin mirror strips instead of parabolic mirrors to concentrate sunlight onto two tubes with working fluid. This has the advantage that flat mirrors can be used, which are much cheaper than parabolic mirrors, and that more reflectors can be placed in the same amount of space, allowing more of the available sunlight to be used. Concentrating linear Fresnel reflectors can be used in either large or more compact plants. The Stirling solar dish combines her parabolic concentrating dish with a Stirling engine which normally drives an electric generator. The advantages of Stirling solar over photovoltaic cells are higher efficiency of converting sunlight into electricity and longer lifetime. Parabolic dish systems give the highest efficiency among CSP technologies. The 50 kilowatts Big Dish in Canberra, Australia is an example of this technology. A solar power tower uses an array of tracking reflectors to concentrate light on a central receiver atop a tower. Power towers are more cost-effective, offer higher efficiency and better energy storage capability among CSP technologies. The PS10 solar power plant and PS20 solar power plant are examples of this technology. Hybrid systems. A hybrid system combines PV and CSP with one another or with other forms of generation, such as diesel, wind and biogas. The combined form of generation may enable the system to modulate power output as a function of demand, or at least reduce the fluctuating nature of solar power and the consumption of non-renewable fuel. Hybrid systems are most often found on islands. Cpv Csp System. A novel solar Cpv Csp hybrid system has been proposed, combining concentrator photovoltaics with the non-PV technology of concentrated solar power, or also known as concentrated solar thermal. ISCC system. The Hisiamal power station in Algeria is an example of combining CSP with a gas turbine, where a 25 megawatt CSP parabolic trough array supplements a much larger 130 megawatts combined cycle gas turbine plant. Another example is the Yazd power station in Iran. Private system hybrid PV, also known as photovoltaic thermal hybrid solar collectors, convert solar radiation into thermal and electrical energy. Such a system combines a solar module with a solar thermal collector in a complementary way. Cpv system. A concentrated photovoltaic thermal hybrid system is similar to a private system. It uses concentrated photovoltaics instead of conventional PV technology, and combines it with a solar thermal collector PV diesel system. It combines a photovoltaic system with a diesel generator. Combinations with other renewables are possible and include wind turbines, PV thermoelectric system, thermoelectric or thermovoltaic devices convert a temperature difference between dissimilar materials into an electric current. Solar cells use only the high-frequency part of the radiation, while the low-frequency heat energy is wasted. Several patents about the use of thermoelectric devices in tandem with solar cells have been filed. The idea is to increase the efficiency of the combined solar thermoelectric system to convert the solar radiation into useful electricity. Development and deployment. Early days. The early development of solar technologies starting in the 1860s was driven by an expectation that coal would soon become scarce. However, development of solar technologies stagnated in the early 20th century in the face of the increasing availability, economy, and utility of coal and petroleum. In 1974, it was estimated that only 6 private homes in all of North America were entirely heated or cooled by functional solar power systems. The 1973 oil embargo and 1979 energy crisis caused a reorganization of energy policies around the world and brought renewed attention to developing solar technologies. Other efforts included the formation of research facilities in the United States, Japan, and Germany. Between 1970 and 1983, installations of photovoltaic systems grew rapidly. But falling oil prices in the early 1980s moderated the growth of photovoltaics from 1984 to 1996. Mid-1990s to early 2010s. In the mid-1990s, development of both residential and commercial rooftop solar as well as utility-scale photovoltaic power stations began to accelerate again due to supply issues with oil and natural gas, global warming concerns, and the improving economic position of PV relative to other energy technologies. In the early 2000s, the adoption of feed-in tariffs, a policy mechanism that gives renewables priority on the grid and defines a fixed price for the generated electricity, lead to a high level of investment security and to a soaring number of PV deployments in Europe. Current status. For several years, worldwide growth of solar PV was driven by European deployment, but has since shifted to Asia, especially China and Japan, and to a growing number of countries and regions all over the world, including, but not limited to, Australia, Canada, Chile, India, Israel, Mexico, South Africa, South Korea, Thailand, and the United States. Worldwide growth of photovoltaics has averaged 40% per year since 2000 and total installed capacity reached 139 gigawatts at the end of 2013, with Germany having the most cumulative installations and Italy having the highest percentage of electricity generated by solar PV. Concentrated solar power also started to grow rapidly, increasing its capacity nearly tenfold from 2004 to 2013, albeit from a lower level and involving fewer countries than solar PV. As of the end of 2013, worldwide cumulative CSP capacity reached 3,425 megawatts. Forecasts. In 2010, the International Energy Agency predicted that global solar PV capacity could reach 3,000 gigawatts or 11% of projected global electricity generation by 2050, enough to generate 4,500 terawatt-hours of electricity. 4 years later, in 2014, the agency projected that, under its high renewables scenario, solar power could supply 27% of global electricity generation by 2050. Photovoltaic power stations. The Desert Sunlight Solar Farm is a 550 megawatts power plant in Riverside County, California, that uses thin-film CDTE modules made by First Solar. As of November 2014, the 550 megawatt Topaz Solar Farm was the largest photovoltaic power plant in the world. This has now been surpassed by the 579 megawatts Solar Star Complex. Concentrating solar power stations. Commercial concentrating solar power plants, also called solar thermal power stations, were first developed in the 1980s. The 377 megawatts Ivanpah Solar Power Facility, located in California's Mojave Desert, is the world's largest solar thermal power plant project. Other large CSP plants include the Sol Nova Solar Power Station, the Andasol Solar Power Station, and Extresil Solar Power Station, all in Spain. The principal advantage of CSP is the ability to efficiently add thermal storage, allowing the dispatching of electricity over up to a 24-hour period. Since peak electricity demand typically occurs at about 5 p.m., many CSP power plants use 3 to 5 hours of thermal storage.